So welcome everyone. Today we have our demystifying regular substantive interaction, RSI, and moving beyond the discussion board. So welcome and thank you for being here and spending the next 2 hours with us. So for today's session, we have myself. I'm an instructional designer in distance learning, and we also have Allison Jones. If you would introduce yourself real quick.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Allison Jones. I teach in the Earth Science department, and I also am the faculty coordinator for distance learning.
All right, excellent. Thank you. So our outline for today's session, talking about what is RSI, why should faculty care, talking some basic information about Canvas discussions, and then also what are LTIs, using some other tools that are integrated within Canvas in order to get the most out of your student interactions. We'll go over an overview of your available options and some tips for choosing which LTI fits the needs for you and your course. At the end, we have some time built in for some reflection, final questions, and hopefully having a chance for you to brainstorm some ideas with your colleagues. Are there any questions before we dive in today? All right, let's get started. Do I have any brave folks who would mind unmuting to share what does RSI stand for?
Regular and substantive interaction.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Yes, regular and substantive interaction. So to meet the regular part of RSI, your communication expectations, or you might hear interaction policy, whatever you want to call it, those expectations should be clearly established from the beginning of the course. So this should be part of your syllabus, or maybe you want to put them on your homepage or in your orientation module, making sure that these are clear and they're easy to find for students. Let them know what to expect going forward and how they can plan to interact with you and their peers in your course. And then different interactions, either instructor to student interaction or student to student interaction, should be weekly. So for 16-week classes, there should be at least one instructor to student interaction and one student to student interaction each week. So this is not necessarily guaranteeing all of your students are going to participate in every single one of your discussion boards, right? I think we've all been in the classroom and understand that this can be a challenge, but making sure that we're giving students the opportunity to interact with each other, build that online course environment, and hopefully with some of the tools you'll learn about today, it might be more interactive or have a more social media-like feel to get your students more engaged. And then if you're teaching a shorter term course, maybe an 8-week course, we are looking for 2 of each interactions per week. So this takes the same, if you have a 16-week course and you're putting it into 8 weeks, of course, your students are going through more material each week. And so the interactions per kind of percent of your course material, since it's condensed, we're also condensing in those interactions as well. And so we'll look into some ways to do this without necessarily feeling like you're adding in more assignments or more work for students. So
Awesome.
RSI, oh,
Sorry.
go ahead.
Is this you? Sorry.
No, this is you.
Oh, okay. So again, our RSI defined, at least here at Sierra College, I guess I have a quick question for you all. Who reads the Academic Senate minutes on board docs? Raise your hand. I see 1, 4, 6. Oh, okay. All right. I feel a lot better. Thanks. Who read them at the end of May? Who read the very last minutes from the very final Academic Senate meeting of the year in the spring? Hopefully some folks did. So Academic Senate passed a policy, an RSI policy for our campus to formalize things that we've already been doing. I want to stress this. At Sierra College's campus, we have a pretty high expectation for RSI in our classes because RSI interaction between students and between the instructor and students has been shown to create a sense of community between students and their instructor and to improve persistence of students throughout a course. And so we've always really had a high expectation for this type of interaction in our courses. So this is nothing new. It's simply been formalized through a policy that was approved by Academic Senate in the spring. So I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of that. So at Sierra College, to meet RSI policy recommendations, your course should include instructor interaction with students on a weekly basis, if it's a 16-week course, student interaction with their peers on a weekly basis, and then establishing clear communication expectations. So via a syllabus or your homepage, something like that. And we'll go into the details of that in a moment. Go ahead. Okay, so to clarify, this policy comes from, it was recommended by the Delight Committee. Raise your hand if you're familiar with the Delight Committee. Yeah, best committee on campus. It's the Distance Learning and Instructional Technology Committee. It's a subcommittee of the Academic Senate. So it was, this policy was proposed by Delight and approved by Academic Senate in May 25. And these recommendations are based on federal accreditation standards and California Title V standards. So these are instructor to student interaction standards, and we have links here to our accrediting body, the ACCJC, their expectations. They have a policy on distance education versus correspondence education. We are trying to avoid being correspondence education. We are distance education, which includes this interaction, this RSI. They have distance education resources available on their website, as well as the quality continuum rubric, which is what they'll be using during the accreditation process this year. And then there are these California Title V guidelines for student-to-student interaction that our policy is heavily based on as well.
All right. So going into details on instructor to student interaction, we'll have there. Can one of my co-hosts make sure that there aren't any folks in the waiting room?
Yes, I disabled it.
Okay. All right. How? Okay, so you have a question in the chat if you'll want to help out your colleague here about how you are messaging this to your students. So you're welcome to respond there in the chat, and then we'll have some time a bit later to have you all chat about it. So instructor to student interaction. So instructors should initiate regular contact with their students, and these should be frequent and predictable. So your students should know that on a weekly basis, they're going to hear from you, right? Whether that is through submission comments, sending out announcements, maybe sending Canvas inbox message, whatever that is. But that should also be included in your communication policy. Interactions should be substantive and academic in nature. So this is one example that I always bring up is, sending a generic announcement with, it's, weather's beautiful outside this week. Make sure you go outside and get some fresh air, go for a walk, practice some de-stressing methods, which is a great reminder for your students, but making sure that you're also tying it back to your course and your course material. So maybe it's a beautiful week outside, go out and enjoy the beautiful weather, but please make sure you log in and submit your replies to peers in the discussion board by Sunday at midnight, right? Something to that sort. So somehow connecting it back to your course's information. And then the last two on here, I'm sure you're all doing already, but this is also included in the instructor to student interaction is, monitoring student engagement and success, proactively engaging with your students when needed. If you notice that a student hasn't logged in a week or hasn't submitted the last couple of assignments, Right, proactively reaching out to that student, sending a message, Canvas inbox message, or making an assignment comment, just checking in to make sure that they're okay and that they're, going to come back to class and keep working towards their goal. So making sure that you're keeping your students engaged and kind of pulling them in if they're starting to get overwhelmed, get busy, and juggling their kind of regular outside of school life with their school requirements as well. All right. Megan, did you have a question? I see your hands up. Nope. Okay, old hand. Just wanted to make sure. All right. So what is instructor-student interaction? Some ideas to kind of get your brain going. So weekly interaction with your students, accreditation standards, instructor presence and interaction. Instructors must initiate regular contact, frequent and predictable, right? This is language from different policies with your students, and interaction must be academic and making sure that you're monitoring student engagement and success. So many of these things I'm sure you're all doing already. It's kind of being packaged together within RSI as well. Now here we have a little bit of an activity, a game, if we could call it that. We have letters A through G here with different phrases, not quite complete sentences. So I want you all to take a minute. I'll read through these here in just a moment, but think to yourself, and then I'll ask for folks to share out whether you think the following are examples of instructor interaction or instructor presence. Okay, so we have posting a welcome video to Canvas, B, giving feedback on student work in SpeedGrader, posting instructional videos to Canvas, instructor posting in a discussion to keep students on track, publishing instructions for completing and submitting work, and then direct communication with students, for example, using the Canvas inbox, and sending out a welcome letter with your communication policy. So take a moment and think whether these would be interaction or presence. And yes, all of them are either interaction or presence, but you'll have to choose which ones are presence and which one are interaction. All right. Looks like we're ready to get started. I see some answers in the chat. So the first one here, letter A, posting a welcome video to Canvas. Anybody want to volunteer? Do you think this is interaction or presence? All right, look at all those responses. Fabulous. Yes, that is an example of presence. You are posting the welcome video. It may be a humanizing element. It may show your wonderful faces to your students, but yes, that is presence. Love it. All right. Letter B, giving feedback on student work in SpeedGrader. Is this presence or interaction? And yes, you're welcome to just put a P or an I. All right. Excellent. Yes, that is interaction. You're giving feedback in SpeedGrader in those assignment or submission comments box. They have an opportunity to message you back. You can get kind of like a little dialogue or a chat going on. They can ask for a follow-up information. Excellent. Letter C, posting instructional videos to Canvas. Presence or interaction? All right. Yes, so C would be presence. You're posting a video to Canvas, but there's not really an opportunity for that back and forth for questions or kind of interaction. All right, let's go down to letter D, instructor posting in a discussion. So within the discussion board to keep students on track of the discussion. All right. Emily, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I mean, I'm struggling. Why are we separating them presence versus interactions? Because in some of these, you can just add something like, allowing the students to comment and so they can be presence and interactions at the same time, right?
Excellent. Yes, that is a great point. So depending on, for example, if you're posting a welcome video or instructional video, if you're asking students to make a comment on that video, if you're telling them to email you or somehow reach out to you to share, their favorite part of the video or what's one thing they learned. If you're adding in those kinds of follow-up interactions or reminding them to leave a comment on the video, then it can be interaction. It depends on how you set it up. But if we're just looking at it kind of face value without any of that extra information, that's how we're pulling it. But that is an excellent point, Emily. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Yes, interaction, interacting within that discussion board. And of course, this is an option. I know there's some faculty that have very strong opinions about adding into the full discussion board and maybe interrupting the student flow. You don't have to do this. This is just one way that this could be fulfilled. All right, publishing instructions for completing and submitting work. Letter E here, presence or interaction. Oh man, excellent. You all look like experts on this already. Wonderful. Yes, that is presence. Letter F, direct communication with your students. For example, using the Canvas inbox. All right, excellent. Now this last one might be kind of tricky. Let's see. Sending out a welcome letter with your communication policy, interaction or presence. All right, anybody volunteer to maybe unmute themselves and share why they think it would be presence or interaction?
I think it's because there's no expectation that there will be a response to that.
Okay, so you would think that it would be presence
Yes.
if there's no expected response. Okay, yeah, makes sense. Anybody in team interaction? Luda?
If you are sending this welcome letter with a request attached to contact you via a certain channel so that students are forced to do this once so that they feel more inclined to do it later whenever they need your support, this would be an interaction because you expect them to respond. For example, you could post this in announcements and enable the comments and ask them to comment, or you could email it and ask them to reply, or you could email them this and ask them to use certain process to contact you so that they know how it works.
All right, excellent ideas. Thank you. Annette, did you want to add anything to that?
Nope, I think she got it.
Okay, wonderful. Anybody else want to share or have questions on this last one? No? All right, we have a really great comment in the chat that I would like to highlight here. So the determining factor is if it is designed to initiate or invite a conversation, then it is interaction. If it's just evidence of, quote, being there, then it's presence. I could not have summed it up better myself. Excellent. Thank you so much for adding that. All right, any questions on instructor to student interaction before we move forward?
Yeah, I have a question. Is the student to instructor to student interaction, is it has to be one-on-one on weekly basis or it can be a group? What is the actual, can you clarify the policy on that?
Right. Allison, what do you
Can
think?
you repeat the question? Sorry, I was uploading the
Uh,
policy.
Instructor to student interaction, the weekly basis, what is the actual requirement? Is it has to be one-on-one, or is it a instructor with group of students? Because for announcement, we are posting for the entire class. It's not one-on-one. So could you please clarify the policy, please?
Yeah, so I just posted the policy in the chat, and this might help clarify what the expectations are. So that instructor to student interaction and invitation to communicate back and forth, and an announcement that is sent to the whole course that is about course content can be considered instructor to student interaction. So that's okay. It doesn't have to be one-on-one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Allison. Patricia?
Okay, to follow up though on that last point that Suda made, if you're sending out an announcement, and unless you, as some people have said, they ask for them to respond, I don't see how that's an interaction, because it's just you telling them something. Like, there is no back and forth. So to me, I was using, is there a back and forth? If there's not a back and forth, then it's just a presence. So is it true that just sending out an announcement would count?
Well, it would depend on how you word that announcement, right? If you're just saying, let me know if you have any questions this week, I would say, to be on the safe side, that would probably not be interaction. I mean, it's great to remind students that you're available. But if you're adding something in with, here's the subject we're going forward this week, add a comment to the end to share with the class, what prior knowledge do you have on it? Or where do you think we could see evidence of this subject in real life? Right? It depends on the wording and really how kind of interactive it is. But allowing comments and giving students the opportunity to interact is at the very minimum allowing for that interaction.
Can I make a comment?
Go ahead.
So it seems like if the announcement is perhaps obviously in response to something going on currently in the class, like if the announcement is, it's come to my attention that, such and such thing is happening, then that seems more like on the interaction side versus just a general announcement that's part of the weekly flow of the course.
Yes, that's I would say that's an accurate depiction.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Barry. I think that was Barry. Yeah, if you're responding to, say, if you have a group of students who are all not grasping a concept and you're noticing a pattern and you're responding to that in an announcement, say you record a quick video that clarifies something, that's in response to what's happening in the class, and that would be considered interaction. Does that help?
I see a yes in the chat. Thank you. Christy. Oh, okay. All right. Let's move forward to student interaction.
Wait.
Oh.
There we go. My
I'll
phone
say,
was
no,
not
I saw your hand.
I know my phone was not responding. Okay. So, the definition that was just provided is confusing, because if I give feedback to a student, that in Canvas grading, in the grade book, that is interaction, but based on your definition, that is not interaction. Because I'm not expecting them to respond or reply, you know what I mean? I'm not initiating a conversation or anything.
Well, the opportunity for interaction is there since they can reply to your comment. Whether they actually take you up on that opportunity,
okay,
right? That's a different conversation, but they do have the opportunity to click reply and respond back to you.
Okay, good. Thank you for that clarification.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
When you just began the meeting, you said you kind of set up basic parameters that there should be at least one example of instructor to student interaction during 1 week of instruction for a regular semester. Correct me if I'm wrong, I remember attending a workshop probably last semester, probably during Flex. And I remember hearing that we are expected to provide unique feedback for every single assignment every single week to every single student. That does not seem to be consistent with what you just outlined. Can you please clarify that?
Yeah, so we do not expect you to give feedback on every single student, on every single assignment, every student, every single week. That would take a tremendous amount of time. So no, that is not the requirement. Right? If you have, 40 students and, 5 assignments every week, that would be a tremendous amount of work. So reaching out to each of your students in some way during the week, or if you have that interactive announcement of connecting it back to how students are doing overall on a certain assignment, that would be okay as well. So it looks like you are way ahead.
Thank you. No, I'm not claiming that I did that. That's impossible. I would not have time to breathe or eat or sleep. I am trying to, but it stressed me out when I heard it because that's what we were told. That's the expectation, and it's impossible. You're right.
Yeah, absolutely. So reaching out to students at least once a week is good, right? Not every single assignment. Just want to be really clear on that. All right. So coming back to our student to student interaction. So this is another key part of RSI and making sure that we're giving students a robust and engaging course environment to learn in while working with their peers. So just because they're taking an online class doesn't mean that they're isolated or taking this as kind of a one-on-one class, right? There should be a class dynamic where they have a chance to engage with their peers. Todd, did you have a question?
Yeah, we were also told in the past that emails were not interaction. Is that true? It takes place outside of Canvas.
If you don't mind me jumping in, just because it takes place over email doesn't mean it's not interaction. If it takes place over email, it can't be seen by the accrediting review team. That's the catch there, right? It's not visible to the accreditors. If it takes place in Canvas, they will be able to view that you are interacting with students over Canvas message. Does that make sense, Todd?
It does, but so many of my students choose email as the way to interact with me.
Yeah, I understand that. If you're able to direct them to Canvas message, that's helpful, or demonstrate interaction in other ways.
We'll give it an effort, but I think it's just a tool that seems to really work for them. But thank you.
Yeah. Paul, yeah, you're correct. In Canvas includes the Canvas inbox.
Is the idea that they just want to see some evidence? So if you're using the Canvas inbox to interact with students, but you're also using, because they opt for the just straight up email, well, you have shown it because you're interacting with students via the Canvas inbox.
Yes, exactly. We would just encourage you to use the Canvas inbox because it's so easy for the accreditation team to find that proof that you're engaging with students and seeing those analytics.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Sorry, I might have missed this if somebody commented on this before, but also you covered this in the last session where if you have your Canvas stuff forwarded to your email and you respond through email, that will track in Canvas as well. So that will be in the analytics, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it should. So if you have that kind of forwarding from inbox to your regular Outlook email, it still kind of like cycles through the inbox, the Canvas inbox. So that should still be available in analytics. Yeah.
But if you're replying from your Sierra College email, not your Canvas inbox, that reply may not track.
It should.
And that if what you're replying to is a Canvas inbox message, right? Some people forward their inbox messages to their email so that they're seeing them in their email. Then it will be tracked in Canvas inbox. I hope that makes sense.
Okay.
Does anybody in the room forward their Canvas messages to their email? Have that forwarding set up? Raise your hand. Or thumbs up. Yeah, great. Okay, so some people do. Yeah. So if you're replying to those inbox messages using your email, if you have that forwarding set up, those interactions will still be tracked in Canvas. So don't worry about that.
All right. So let's keep going forward with our student-to-student interaction. So
Tara, sorry, I had my hand up for a second. I forward my Canvas inbox mail to my regular Sierra email, and when I reply, I cannot find anything on my Canvas inbox.
even in the
Like it
sent?
shows in my regular inbox, but it doesn't show in my regular Canvas inbox.
It should still be able to be tracked by analytics. I've asked Canvas this question to like the techie people in Canvas, and they said that it still should be tracked in analytics.
So how do I make sure that that's accurate? Because I just changed after the meetings that we had yesterday, and knowing that accreditation, it says Jennifer Cadman says that it tracks search by student name. I'm pretty sure I've done that, so maybe I'm doing something wrong because it doesn't show when I try to find it on Canvas inbox. So how do I find out if I'm doing this correctly? It should show in the Canvas inbox.
Yes, it should show
Once
in
you
the
have
sent, or
replied
if you search by the student name, it should come up.
in Canvas inbox. Okay.
Yes.
I'll have to do something because I don't know. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I know that I received the emails that my students send me through Canvas inbox to my Sierra email, and I reply there. When I try to find it in my Canvas inbox, it's not there. If you respond to a Canvas message through email and add an attachment, the
Right,
attachment will not
attachments
go
may
through.
not go through because Canvas inbox has a lower allowance for their attachments.
Okay.
So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, the record should still be there. Okay, maybe I'll take one more question on this, and then we will need to move on so that we have time to cover everything we need to today. Let's see. Maybe Lauren? I'm not sure whose hand was up first. No? Okay. And there's some good information here within the chat from your colleagues as well, if you wanted to check out how they're able to find their messages. All right. So our student-to-student interaction is part of the requirement through California Title V. And this shows the difference between correspondence courses versus distance education courses. So correspondence courses are not eligible for financial aid. Kind of the typical example is for a correspondence course that, you sign up online, you get a packet in the mail, you fill it in, you send it back, right? They give you your grade or your score. There's no interaction in there. It's a very kind of individualized kind of activity. They are not eligible for financial aid, and we do not have correspondence courses at Sierra College. So this is one of the main, the student-student interaction is the main way that we can show the difference between distance education courses, so our online and hybrid courses. And so our main goal of our online courses is to create an inclusive and engaging online environment that empowers learning and fosters a sense of unconditional belonging and agency for students. So making sure that they feel part of a class, part of a community within our online courses. All right, Luda, do you have a question on student-to-student interaction?
Just an additional comment about, I guess, both instructor to student and student to student. Q&A, where students can post questions and I and other students can reply, and having it available throughout the semester. That's something we can use as evidence of availability of the tools and invitation to interact for everybody involved.
Yes. In terms of how that would factor into like which week would that count for, I'm not sure how we would substantiate that, but it would be in general an example of that interaction.
Okay, thank you for emphasizing that we have to have a proof of weekly such interaction, not just that they have an option to do it weekly, that it actually happens. So it's a mandatory thing. Got it. Thanks.
Yes. All right, so some examples could be discussions and whether that's in Canvas, in VoiceThread, Harmonize, etc. Group note-taking strategies or annotating a document together, making notes or comments, whether this is synchronous or asynchronously. If you're using Perusal or Harmonize or like a Canvas wiki page, collaborating on an assignment or project, and whether this is in Lucid, Google Docs, or some other way. So not necessarily that they have to be doing a complete assignment each week, but even if they're doing stages of an assignment, or here is their first step of students working together and outlining what they're going to do. And then maybe the next week they're filling in some of those steps. Could also do it as well. So kind of thinking of ways that you could work this into your classroom already without kind of putting a big burden on yourself and creating all these new assignments and giving students so much extra work. You could use student-generated work in collaboration, so creating slides, them creating a project or some other visual, peer reviews, anything along those lines. Jennifer? Jennifer, I see your hand up.
Sorry. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I asked in the chat, I use the message students who function a lot, and it doesn't seem to be tracking in the inbox.
Yeah, so that doesn't track in the inbox. I'm not positive on an answer for this. It might show in your course analytics, but I'm not 100% on that.
I can answer that.
Okay.
You'll find it in your sent Canvas inbox folder. You should, that's where I've been able to find things. If I've sent it as a message students who function, it just ends up in sent. You don't see it in the inbox because it's sent.
Right. I'm pretty sure I checked there and I've never seen it there, but I'll check again. Maybe it's been updated.
Yeah, and there might be, I'm trying to remember, there might be a different category too. Like there's several categories that you don't see in the inbox. So if it's not sent, it might be like an interaction thing, but I'm 99% sure that I've found them there somewhere in there.
Okay.
Or mailbox options.
I can confirm what Rebecca just said. They will be hidden unless you specifically open sent folder. They will show up in the main folder when you just open inbox, only if students reply to them and there is some conversation going on.
All right. Excellent. Does anyone have any ideas or examples of student-to-student interaction that we could add to this list, or maybe some examples that you use in your own courses?
I have a question.
Oh, sure. Oh, sorry about that, Sudha. Go ahead.
For example, assume that I created a general discussion for homework problems and only part of the student participated in that. Is that considered as student-to-student interaction, or it has to be all student must participate?
Right. So I think that goes along the lines of another question that we had about like the course Q&A. That would be an example of student-to-student interaction, but in terms of getting that weekly interaction, I'm not sure where that would kind of fit in if you're looking at per the week, but it is kind of in general a good example of that.
Okay.
Yes, Sean?
So what about tools that are outside Canvas? So I use Discord for all of my classes. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's online communication where you can talk in real time with students. Do you know what the policy is about that in terms of this, and whether it's measurable or how, you know, how that fits into this?
Yeah. So in general, students chatting and you being engaged in there would be interaction. I'm not sure how that would be, like if your online course was chosen for accreditation review, then I'm not sure how that would be kind of shown because it's a third-party app. Yeah, I'm not sure on that answer. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I'm making a note of this to ask a clarifying question about whether they'll have access to something like Discord as a third party
Because
tool.
we could certainly send them the link and they could see the because at least for my classes, I have a lot more one-on-one daily interaction with my students and between themselves in Discord than they do actually in the Canvas environment. They're literally talking to each other, you know, 2 or 3 times a day. So it's a good question.
Okay. Sean, I'm going to make a note to follow up with you after.
And Janice is going to weigh in here.
I was just looking at the chat, and so they have some good responses to that. But the response that I heard conveyed mostly in the other meetings from leadership is that they will ask, you know, for evidence, and you could do things like maybe it'll be as simple as giving them access to certain third-party tools, or having printouts or some kind of documentation that will be requested, but they will follow up the accreditation team.
Thank you. All right, so looking at these different examples of student-to-student interaction, what would be your main takeaway of what we want students to do, or what do we want there to be within your courses? Anyone want to come off mute and share?
I guess my main takeaway is if you already are doing discussions, you already meet the requirement.
Yes, great. Thank you, Barry. All right, and so as a reminder, there are more examples and ideas about how to incorporate student-to-student interaction in the faculty resource guide. All right, our next section on RSI is about communication expectations. So for these should be added to your syllabus or maybe an orientation module or course homepage, somewhere obvious and easy for students to find so that they can understand how and when students can expect regular interaction, grading, and feedback from the instructor. So including when and how students can expect feedback on assignments, announcements, responses to emails or LMS messages, which would be your Canvas inbox, participation from the instructor in discussions, and grades on assignments, right? And then in what form? Are you going to mainly provide text feedback? Will you occasionally include audio or video feedback where it might be helpful for students, and that sort of thing? So giving them kind of a basic understanding of how your course functions, how you will be involved in your course, and when they can expect to see you, in addition to when will they be working with their peers, right? If you're an instructor that prefers to leave discussions to students, where you'll give personal feedback within assignment comments, then let them know that, right? Discussions are meant for you to work with your peers. I may include, as the instructor, may include help to kind of keep the discussion on track, but I will mostly provide feedback individually within assignment submissions or comments. And so letting them know that ahead of time, that that is their space for them to talk about whatever your prompt is, and that you are monitoring but may not be actively involved. When can they expect grades and feedback, right? Are you going to give feedback within 3 days, within a week of the due date? When should they expect that? And if they don't hear from you, when should they follow up with you, right? And this can also kind of prevent a lot of student emails of asking, when are you going to grade this? When will I get feedback on? I want to know what I can do better. How can I do better on this, right? If you're clear from the very beginning, maybe send some reminders during the semester, or have a little line on your assignment, that can really help keep students on the right path of what to expect and to keep their expectations reasonable. All right, any questions on this section? Or Allison, if there's anything you'd like to add on this part?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add is that these communication expectations, if your course, it happens to get pulled for accreditation purposes, having these communication expectations clearly on the homepage or in your syllabus also helps guide the reviewer on what to look for, right? It explains to them how you're going to be demonstrating RSI in your class, essentially. So it's a good guide not only for the students, but for other folks looking at your class. And course reviewers, if you're going through the course review process.
All right, Jennifer?
Yeah, so I teach a 1-unit support class that is connected to a regular class. It's 2 separate classes on Canvas though. But it's the same students, the students are in the support class are also in the other class. So I'm wondering, it feels really redundant to make them do 2 discussions per week, one in the regular class and another one in a 1-unit support class, which already has work to do and is only worth 1 unit. So I have to be mindful of how much I'm asking them to do.
Right.
When they're connected like that and they're already interacting in the main class, will that be sufficient?
You know what? That is a great question. I haven't had a question like that come up before.
Cool.
I'll take a note on that. I don't know if Allison or Janet, if you have an answer to that.
I can only speak to my personal experience, which is that we have 1 unit labs that are attached to 3-unit lectures, but they're separate Canvas courses. And just to be on the safe side and also just to provide students another opportunity to interact, we have this interaction expectation in both Canvas courses, and it is a lot, and it does sometimes feel like busy work for the students. That's just my personal experience. Maybe Janet wants to add to that.
I'm sorry, I did miss the question, part of it. Could you repeat it, please?
The question was, when you have a support class attached to a regular lecture class, so I teach a 3-unit lecture class that has a 1-unit support class. I already worry about how much I put in that 1-unit class because it's only 1 unit and so I can only require so much work. And they're already doing interaction with the same group of people in the regular 3-unit class. So it feels really redundant to make them talk again when I'd rather them focus on doing the work that they need to get done in that support class. So I was wondering if the accreditation team takes into account that these people are already interacting with each other in the other class, when it's clear that they're merged together as far as in registration, but on Canvas they're treated as 2 separate course shells.
I don't have an answer to that question. I'll have to find out.
These are both online classes, Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think at this moment we don't have good clarification on that, but it's on my list of things to discuss at Delight to hopefully clarify.
Thank you.
Sure. Thanks for the question.
Jennifer, well, I was on the accreditation team like 7 years ago. This is Tamal. And one of the things that, the accreditation team, they're looking for us to succeed. They're not looking for us to like misstep. So as long as we showed that there were the same people in those 2 classes, there weren't any people that were in the one unit and weren't in the other one, they were good with it. So not speaking for the team now, but last time it was like, as long as there was logic there, we were good.
It seems like we should be able to screen what courses the 50 are going to be, so we can maybe eliminate those sort of odd situations, those one-off situations, so they get lumped into the 50.
I'm not sure if we're going to have an opportunity to do that, but that would be helpful. I'll ask the question for sure. Thanks.
I don't think that I don't think that we're allowed to take anything out from the screening, as far as screening, so that, for example, first time teacher courses, for fall 2025 don't get reviewed. Nope, we don't. That doesn't happen. That's what they said in the chairs meeting.
Yeah. And if they have questions, they will reach out and ask for further evidence.
Right. I'm going to pass it to Rebecca for question.
Oh, I actually just had a comment in terms of like advising students as to when they can expect feedback. So this is maybe more of an English department thing, but since we have a lot of essays in our composition classes and, things come up, I can't always guarantee like I'm gonna release grades and comments in 7 days or whatever. What I tell my students is I will never ask you to submit the next essay before you've received feedback on the previous one, especially like in the 8-week classes. So I don't give them like a specific turnaround time, because I don't want to then not be able to meet that if something comes up. But I do want them to know that they'll get feedback on the previous thing before they're asked to submit the next thing. So it's never happened that I've had to adjust due dates because I've been that behind, like I have it spaced out, but that just at least gives them, the peace of mind that like they're gonna get feedback on that previous essay before they submit the next one.
Yes, and I can only imagine how long it takes for you to go through and grade and give feedback on long assignments like that. Luda, and then we'll go to Barry.
Thank you. My question relates to a question that Paul asked in the chat. So maybe you can answer that question, and then I will follow up with a slightly different scenario that he's asking about. It's with regards to online classes, asynchronous classes. Is it allowed for us to require a video meeting, Zoom meeting, for example?
You're allowed to require a live Zoom meeting.
For one-on-one cases, I'm assuming, right, Paul?
Yeah.
It's for cases of academic questions of academic dishonesty. I want to talk to them about it instead of try to do it over email.
Are we talking about one-off instances, not a regularly occurring
Well, I would
meeting?
hope it would be one off, but often it isn't.
Sure.
Often there are patterns of like, oh, we need to talk about this again. And I typically hold, I hold scheduled office hours. I typically hold them on different days at different times. So usually one in the early afternoon and one in the, well, it counts for me as the evening, 4 to 6. And then if they can't make those, I try to work with them. But as a part-timer and like I choose not to have unlimited flexibility for meeting with students because I got other stuff to do. But this is a question that's come up because I've had students just flat out refuse, in which case I've been like, okay, well, we'll try, but this is going to take a lot longer because we have to do back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So the question, I guess, is I don't know if this really falls under RSI or if it's just an edge case, but like in our communication policy, can we stipulate that, if there is a exceptional circumstance that comes up, I may ask you to meet with me within 1 week during my scheduled office hours and give them that expectation that like, this might happen.
You can absolutely put that in your communication expectations. Obviously, like we can't control what the student actually does or follows through on, right? But you can definitely make the request to talk about these things in real time with a student. I think that's reasonable.
What if it comes with a consequence if they don't? Like you must talk to me within 1 week, otherwise you get a 0.
I think that's up to the instructor.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Did someone else have something to say on that?
Yes, I wanted to add to that because I had exactly same case this summer and same. I want to include a policy in my syllabus this time to be covered, to have some kind of plan of action and tell students up front what's going to happen. And I reached out to my dean with a statement asking, "Hey, is this okay?" My dean said it's okay with the one exception. I cannot require them to turn on video.
Sure.
Which in a way defeats the purpose because in this specific case, I could verify who student was because student was willing to turn on video and I saw a student's face and it was agreeing with the face in my CR Connect. So I knew this is the student who's enrolled, but student admitted by the time we're done with the meeting that he's not doing the work, somebody else does his work. And he got an F in the course because he didn't do anything. His friend did the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I asked my dean, how am I going to verify that the student I'm talking to, even if they agree to show up in Zoom, but do not agree to show their face, how do I know that I'm not talking to their friend who is doing their work anyway? And I don't have the answer to that question. So my dean said I cannot require video component, but I can put a statement that I could ask for oral test if I, have valid suspicions that the work is not authentic. I just don't know how to. I don't know how to work. Like, what do I achieve if I ask for oral exam, but I don't know who I'm talking to? It makes no sense.
Right. I completely hear, and I've encountered this as well. I understand your concern around verifying the identities of the students who are taking our online classes. That's a very, very valid concern and frustration. I think it's outside of the scope of this particular workshop, Luda, but I would really like to talk more about this. Can I invite those of you who have concerns about this to either speak with your Delight representative about this or come to a Delight meeting? These are the things that I would really like to talk to faculty about and make sure that we have agreement on at least how we tackle these things, or at least make it aware that these are things that are happening and that we're concerned about. Let's definitely have the conversation. Okay. Thanks, folks. These are great comments. I do want to pass it back to Tara and let her get to what she wants to say. Thanks, Tara.
All right. Now, are there any more questions as we kind of come back to our presentation here? Any other questions on our topic of RSI?
Well, I was wondering if
Okay.
distance learning or instruction office was maybe going to do their own random sampling of some courses before accreditation shows up to get some idea about what our predicted pass rate would be.
We haven't talked about it, Barry, but I think that's a really great idea. We'll put it on the list and see if that's something that we're able to do in time. But we are a small team with limited resources, so we'll see if we can get to it.
That is actually a VPI thing. We might want to ask Rebecca about that. And so I will. I believe she did mention something about that. I just can't remember her exact words, and I don't want to misquote or misdirect anyone.
Thank you for that. All right, Luda, did you have a question on this section?
Yes, I have a different question. If a discussion runs on a 2-week cycle where I'm giving students a week to do the first post and the second week to reply, that would be my formal like deadline approach. But students obviously some post and immediately reply to somebody. I don't control when exactly they're doing it, as long as they meet the deadlines within the 2-week cycle. Does that meet the requirement, or because formally I give them full week to post response to the original prompt that I provide, and the second week formally to communicate with other students, that would not meet the criteria you're setting up?
That's a good question. I'm not sure that that would count for the student-to-student interaction, since it would be mostly taking place during 2 different weeks.
Yes, it would take place during a 2-week cycle. I'm
not quite sure how to answer that.
I've heard from students that they're exhausted by all of these requirements, and every online class they take require these discussions every week. And they were thankful that at least in this one class, they have a little less pressure to post something. But I'm guessing formally it's not meeting the requirement, because during 1 week they're not required to communicate with each other. Only during the second week they are. So technically it's not meeting, I guess. So there's something else that has to happen during that 1 week, or it has to be a weekly discussion. I'm taking that, I guess, as an answer.
Yeah, for that, I'm not quite sure. There are many different ways of getting your students to discuss together, or to work on an assignment together, or somehow be talking with each other, that you could also integrate. I'm not sure. I don't have a solid answer for whether that would count for 2 different weeks, or if that would only count for the 1 week that they're actually replying to each other. Yeah. Right. Let's hop into some tools. So what are LTIs? LTI stands for Learning Tools Interoperability. For short, usually we just call these integrated tools. But these are third-party tools that are integrated into Canvas that you can access from within Canvas. So if you're using these kinds of tools, it's easily viewable within your course. You would create an assignment in Canvas, and then under submission type, you would choose external tool, and then choose the different tool that you would use here. And we do have pages on each of these tools within the faculty resource guide as well. So Harmonize is one of these tools. How many of you have used Harmonize before? Can I get a thumbs up or a wave? All right, a couple of you. Few more. Excellent. Thank you. So Harmonize is a way to make interactive discussions where students can post a video, audio, text, upload files. You could make your initial post of all these, and students can also respond in similar ways. So some faculty have found that students are kind of more engaged in these type of discussions since it feels a little more social media-like. The design is a little bit different, and they seem to be a little more engaged. Of course, this would depend on the class, depending on your student engagement in general. One of the great things about Harmonize is that it does have multiple due dates and has for a while that work well. And so there are so many settings available within Harmonize where you can set up how many points is the initial post worth, how many points are the follow-up replies, how many replies do you want them to do, and then it can also help you be aware of how many students have not yet posted when it gets closer to that final due date. Yeah, so Harmonize has discussion tools. It also has peer reviews, which is new. You can give students a text to annotate together. And as I see in the chat, there's really great rubric help. So they have AI integrated within their Harmonize that can help you create a rubric. Students can use that rubric to kind of check themselves before they submit. And then you can also use that rubric to grade your students as well. Yes, and you can use AI to help create some prompting. It has options to use Bloom's taxonomy if you want to use, grab a student learning outcome, put it in there, ask for help to get started with a prompt, and to get new ideas out of it as well. Yes, thank you, Jay. All right, Suda? Did you have a question?
No, I don't have any question. I forgot to lower the hand.
Okay. Todd?
No, not really.
Oh, sorry, is the other Todd? Your hand was still up. I was just checking whether you had a question. Todd Jensen? No? Okay. All right. Anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I just had a
Okay.
comment because when I started using Harmonize, I was under the mistaken impression that when you created a rubric in there that the auto scoring was connected to it, but it's totally not. The only thing it recognizes is if you made the original post on time and if you made the required number of responses on time. And it doesn't even it doesn't let you say like, we'll deduct 1 point for a response that's a day late or 2 points for one that's 2 days late. So you still have to go in there and manually deal with stuff because it just generates a rubric, but it has nothing to do with anything else that it's doing for you.
Yeah, so it will only auto grade if you decide to let it auto grade of whether students have participated. You can set word count minimums and then how many initial posts and peer reply posts are required. And then pretty much if they meet those, they get full credit. Otherwise, then yes, you do have to put in and go through those. You could do it in Harmonize. You could also do it within SpeedGrader. All of their posts will populate within SpeedGrader. Now as well, there is an option within Harmonized Discussions where you can allow submissions after the due date. And with this newest update, they will populate within SpeedGrader if a student submits after the due date. However, you do not get an alert. There is a watch topic option where it's like a little toggle switch within Harmonize where you can get alerts when students post. But it won't flag anything within the SpeedGrader. It won't be added to kind of like your grading to-do list within Canvas, but it will populate. So you can review that and then decide to add more points to student score or not. Yes, thank you for that reminder. All right, our next tool is Lucid. So within Canvas, there is a Lucid whiteboard, which you will usually see in your course navigation. So that white strip to the left. So within Lucid, we have Lucid Spark and Lucid Chart. Lucid Spark is like a virtual whiteboard or like a sticky note board where students can organize, brainstorm, diagram ideas. And then Lucid Chart is where you can make drag and drop activities, diagramming cells. They have templates that you can use as well, where you can be more of an individual activity, or if you want students to work together, you can also set that up as well. All right, so when students submit, a PDF image of their submission will be sent to SpeedGrader. That way you can check it out and add their grade within SpeedGrader. Students kind of have to opt into here. It's not necessarily an account setup, but they do have to confirm that they're older than 13. This is due to Lucid's privacy requirements. And so if students click the wrong button, then it kind of makes it really difficult for them to participate. So just making sure that they click that button, that they are in fact older than 13 in order to use that software. The other situation with Lucid is that as you import your course from semester to semester, or if you're using a blueprint course, that the Lucid assignment is the Lucid assignments that are done individually will import over, but if you have a board where students are all adding their own take together on the same board, you can only use that board once. So it may be a good idea to create like a template board that you copy for each of your courses or for each semester. So that's one of the drawbacks to Lucid. All right. Any questions on Lucid before we move on? Great. Let's hop forward to PlayPosit. Has anybody used PlayPosit before? I think I have a couple people who have. Yes. Few of you? Okay, excellent. So what is your favorite thing about PlayPosit? Luda?
I use PlayPosit extensively in my online stats. The best thing is that it's a way to make students interact with the video content that you are giving them. And there are many ways to do that by you inserting questions, additional links, pauses, images. Students can take notes within that space, and that it's a searchable notes where they can come back and say, oh, I remember I watched this, long video and made some comments about this, and they can look it up later. So it's a very versatile tool. It's according to their advertising compliant, ADA compliant, so I don't have to worry about it. And it talks to Canvas Studio, so it's a nice tool. And what I achieved by using this tool within the last maybe 2 years for sure is that students don't have a chance of skipping lessons. They have to do it. They have to earn grade, and if they don't, it's the red flag. That's how I caught this student cheating over summer, because he was skipping the mandated videos and was acing everything else. Well, that doesn't work. How can you get an A in stats class without learning anything? This is a way for me to ensure students actually do the learning and then do well.
Excellent, thank you.
This is the #1 feedback I get about my videos, is that the students feel like they're actually in a class, because it stops the lecture video. It asks them a question just like I would do in a regular classroom.
Excellent. Thank you, Barry. All right. Yeah. So you can upload your own created videos from Canvas Studio. There's a button that you can click that will kind of pull in Studio for you. You can import from YouTube, Vimeo, or upload MP3 files if you're interested in kind of like a podcast feel. The only thing with this for the YouTube videos is kind of checking, make sure those captions look good. Students can add comments to the sidebar as a class, which could satisfy that student-to-student interaction where you allow a discussion, and then you can choose which time period during the video you can set that. So if you want them to be discussing within the video from maybe minute 6 to minute 10, you can add that in, and then students can leave comments during that time period of the video. You can also add in quiz questions, like Barry was saying. Students watch a video pauses, question pops up in the sidebar, and they answer that. You can set how many points it's worth. You can add in auto feedback, and if it's something that's easily auto-graded, right, multiple choice, true, false kind of questions, it can automatically grade that, and students can see their answer right away. There's also an option to add like fill in the blank or essay questions. And of course, those would need to be manually graded. So it can give both the instructor-student interaction as part of that play pause it assignment, while also having that student-to-student interaction if you allow that class discussion part. Within settings, you can require students to answer the questions before moving on. You can choose whether students can rewind that video. You can choose whether students can fast forward that video, so students can't just skip to the next question to answer to finish. You create your own questions, assign points. There are some kind of pre-created play posits that folks have decided to share out that you could use, part of its own database. But it also kind of ensures students are watching the whole video, right? They're only going to get credit as completing that assignment if they watch to the very end of the video, right? All right, and see a comment here about the studio quizzes. So yeah, so if you have used studio quizzes before, but you wished it had a few more question types, there were more kind of customizable settings, then Play Pause It would be for you. Studio quizzes, I feel like we're trying to get to that point, but it's still kind of basic. So it might be a good starting point for you if you're interested in getting going with something like this. But Play Pause It has so many options and different settings that you can add there. All right, VoiceThread. So VoiceThread is another integrated tool that is available. You can upload video or record directly within VoiceThread. It will auto caption your video, and so we just ask that you go in and you review those captions for accuracy and make any edits if necessary. I mean, it is auto captions like anything else. So if you have specific names, or if you're teaching biology and you have very kind of subject-specific matter, to make sure that those are spelled correctly for your students. Within VoiceThread, students and instructors can make comments. So if you have your presentation, but you wanted to add a comment, you can go to that point of the video, add a comment. You can zoom in and out of that video. You can draw on that screen, and that will all be part of your recorded comment. So any drawings that you make are not there permanently. It will only show at that point of your comment. Students can also do the same, which is really exciting. If you want students to, I don't know, if they're looking at an x-ray and you want them to figure out which bone is broken or where is there a fracture, and they can literally draw on that screen of where you're looking at. Or if you have a math problem, right? Where is the problem here, right? Where is the incorrect part of the steps? And they can draw on there and explain what they should have done. There are a lot of kind of really, really interesting ways that you can play with VoiceThread. And then students can also view the other comments as well. You can set requirements that students have to post first before they see the other comments. But then they can also comment on each other's comments as well. So if you're looking for a different way to get them to interact with each other based on maybe a presentation or a video, instead of doing kind of the traditional discussion board, you can try out a VoiceThread as well. So you can have them watch it and complete it individually, or assign it as kind of a class discussion and having them interact with their peers' comments. Students can also respond in the same way. So video, audio, upload file, type text, do the zoom in and out, draw on screen, all of those sorts of things. So VoiceThread will auto caption videos. So if you record directly within there, it will auto caption it. Uploaded PDFs. And if you have, if you add an image, almost like a slide deck, but you're adding an image for them to go to different pages, there will be kind of automated created alt text there, which you can of course review, but it will at least help you get started so that you're not spending as much time adding in those accessibility features all on your own. All right, any questions on VoiceThread? All right, so I'm seeing some comments here, just kind of quickly glancing while talking about these different tools. So not all of the tools may meet instructor-to-student interaction, and not all tools may meet the student-to-student interaction. It depends on how you're using the tool, how you're making those settings and parameters, what you're including in your instructions. If you're including that students need, as part of the instructions, they're required to leave 2 comments for a peer and it's worth 10 points or however many points you want to add, then that is the part that's showing that student-to-student interaction. You set up it as a class discussion or as a discussion moment within that video, and you've assigned points to them. So students are seeing that that is a requirement of that assignment, right? You're not held responsible whether your students are really doing all of those parts, right? We can't expect our students to do 100% of the work 100% of the time, although that would be amazing. But being realistic about it, it's making sure that that the reviewer, whether it's an online review or accreditation, that they can see that you're asking students to do these things. All right, I'm just checking out question here in the chat. Right, okay, excellent. All right, let's see, it is 12:08, wonderful. Okay, so some reflection and reflection questions and conversation. We have some time here, so I would love it if we could maybe set up a couple of breakout rooms and give you a chance to kind of chat together, maybe for about 5 minutes. Oh, we have one more question. All right, Allison, do you want to answer that while I'm setting up breakout rooms?
Sure, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so Sudha's question is, a survey was conducted to gather student feedback and responses were provided only to those who had specific questions to clarify the topics. Would this fulfill the weekly instructor-to-student interaction requirement? I would say yes, because it's an invitation for students to interact with you. Again, yeah, I think that would definitely count as instructor-to-student interaction.
Okay. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you for
Mhm.
clarifying that.
All right, so I copied and pasted these questions into the chat. So in the next 5 minutes or so within the breakout rooms, let's see, we have a lot of folks in here. Excellent. Probably I'll make
20
10
or so.
Hmm?
If we do 10, that's like 10 in each group. We want to do 20 breakout groups. That's a lot, but just so everyone has enough time to talk. I don't know.
Sure, let's do. All right, so we'll do 15 breakout rooms. So that's about 7 people per group. That way, if there's a couple quiet folks, we still have some good conversation going. I'll open these up here and it will go automatically. And then you'll have about 5 minutes and then you should get a 30-second warning by the end. All right.
Farewell. There they go.
And if there's any questions on how to join the breakout rooms, we can help you get there. You may have seen something pop up on your screen. You may need to go to your kind of settings bar and click on the More tab and then choose breakout rooms.
I pressed the wrong button. Can can I get into the breakout room, please? Sorry.
Sure. Do you remember what room you were in a second ago?
Yep, it was 9.
Okay, I'll put you back there.
Thanks.
Of course. All right, looks like most folks have made it to their breakout room.
This is that part of the workshop where we're asking you all to interact with one another. That student-to-student interaction. Does anybody need help getting to their breakout room? It's not.
And then for some of you folks who are still hanging out here, if you would like to ask any questions, or if you wanted to share with us in kind of this little room here, let's see. We have less than 10 folks over here too, so.
How much time do they have, Tara?
They had 5 minutes, so probably 4 minutes now.
Okay.
Nice. All right, so everybody should be back now. I hope you all had some fruitful conversations. Is there anyone who would like to share out about what something maybe that you're doing or that you heard? If you want to give some kudos to some of your peers of what they're already doing that's working really well.
I will go ahead with what my group discussed. I have a general homework discussion each week, but only 2 or 3 students participate, and I have to step into provide feedback because none of the student answer or they won't help each other. So I discussed with my group about that, and we learned that if there is no grade attached to that, no one is going to participate in that. So I had to, I'm trying to, find some way it works. Maybe another suggestion was ask student itself, like, how can I make this, make everyone respond and help each other to learn the material.
Nice. Yes. Points are there to kind of guide students, I feel. Even if it's only a few points, having any points attached kind of motivates them to complete it, and they feel like it's not optional. So it's a great idea. And also pulling students into that learning process, right? Asking them what would help them to, or help maybe each other to participate more. That's a great thought. Thank you for sharing. Catherine.
Yeah, so in our group, we were asking a question right when we got kicked out of our rooms. And so the question was, we were talking about Play Posit and tutorials. And I think Pro Dev usually has some recorded tutorials, but we didn't know. I find it confusing to actually find them. Could somebody tell me how to find all those tutorials that are recorded on,
in
for
Pro Dev?
example, on Play Posit?
Sure. So if there's any recorded from previous sessions, when you click on ProDev, you'll click on the magnifying glass that says search for learning. And then within there, you can search maybe just Play Posit, and then it will pull up whatever may be available.
Mm.
And if you look at the ProDev calendar, there are also trainings throughout the semester on Play Posit as well. Yes, thank you for asking. I'm sure others had that question as well. Let's see. Linda, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to share out?
Talking to me, Luda, or Linda?
Oh, Linda.
Oh, no.
Okay, I'll go on to Vernon then.
I just had a quick question. I do some lectures that I use on my iPad using an app that I convert into YouTube videos that I use in my classroom. Am I able to, I guess maybe I don't know what the term would be, but convert those into Play Posit videos where I could then take that basic video and then add those interactive question elements?
Yes, absolutely.
And there's instruction for how to do that in those videos you refer to?
Yes, I believe we also have one, have a video on our YouTube channel. I'll see if I can pull a link up here. Luda, I see you're really excited to answer that question. Do you want to add?
I believe it's possible because I've done YouTube videos before, and if they're yours and you have full control of closed captions, this is a great resource. Just like you can grab videos from Canvas in what's called Studio, you can do YouTube.
Right.
Vernon, you want to drop by my office sometime?
Sure. Just to hang out, or?
Oh, I can show you how to do it.
Oh, that, okay.
All right, and I'm trying to pull up a link here that can help get you started as well here in Play Posit. I'll drop it into the chat. Allison also added some screenshots that kind of give you an idea of how, where you can pull videos from for these. Luda?
Just a quick follow-up question. The ProDev search for pre-recorded videos that someone asked about, will the video you had this morning about distance learning updates will be there as well, same location?
You know, I'm not sure where exactly it will post because I don't actually put them there. I send them to Pod and then they put them. But in one of our newsletters, we will let you know where that is.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All right. Anything else that you'd like to share out, or if you wanted to help find some ideas to make a certain assignment more interactive?
In
Allison?
our group, we discussed, sadly, there was short time to do that. We discussed peer review style where assignments where students are required to record a video demonstrating solving we're math people, so for me it's like a solving problem, and other peers are critiquing it or assessing it, I guess, based on a preset rubric provided by a teacher. And doing that as another option for peer-to-peer interaction.
Yes. Excellent. That's a great option as well. And sometimes throwing in some peer reviews or like a peer critique can also help kind of lure some of those introverts that may not be ready to engage in like a big discussion or even like larger group discussions. Having more of a one-on-one situation can help help those introverts that are a little more quiet kind of be pulled into working with others. Excellent. Allison?
Yeah, I want to second that comment. Jade Selke in the chat posted about introverts in class, and I can totally relate to this, being an introvert myself. Having students in those small groups definitely helps encourage conversation, and if you leave them in those groups even for a couple of weeks, they can get to know each other a little bit more. Is there something we can do to calm down the extroverts? I know, let's have the introverts plan a convocation one year, yeah? But yeah, I think the small groups is really great. And then the comment about being conscious of the tools that we ask students to learn how to use, right? You just want to be wary of how many tools you're asking students to learn in a given class, right? You don't want to totally overwhelm them. That was a really good point, Jade. Thank you.
Yes, great point. And today's purpose was to kind of introduce you to these, letting you know that they exist and a little bit about what they do. That way, if there's one that you want to try this semester, it can kind of give you a nudge to look more into one of those tools. But I would say including all of these tools in one class would probably be a lot for students to navigate along with all the other coursework. So maybe one or two might be a good idea. But yes, thank you. Mary Beth? Mary?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I could not get my phone to react. I was yelling at my phone. Sorry about that. I have a quick question about discussions. Kind of to your point, Tara, I try to do graded discussions as much as possible instead of like virtual voice thread and other things because I don't want to overwhelm my students. And it is so helpful to sometimes assign leaders to small groups. The leader of the group should be presenting a problem or something. But I don't know. I'm so sorry if this is too specific, but I've found that students can't tell who the leader of their small group is in the actual small group. They have to go out to people, select people. They can only go into their group. There they can see the little leader icon. But if they're in a graded discussion assignment for their group, there's no way to see the leader. It's okay. I can ask this question later, but I just was curious because there's so many people here who are so much more knowledgeable than I. And do you know how to, am I doing something wrong? Is there a better way to do this?
I'm not sure. It sounds like you're doing all the right things.
It just is really hard for them because they open up their assignment. There's 5 of them in a group. One of them is the group leader and should be doing more than the others on a
Mary, can you put in the instructions, like if it's a discussion, so and so is the group leader for this activity or this discussion?
Well, I can, but I generally have my groups assigned. Like I just would have to go in every week and then change. You know what I mean? Like, okay, here are the list of group leaders, and I can do that. I can just do that. I just figured since there's a way to designate group leaders and there's a way for them to see it in people, it just seems weird that there's no way in the discussion that I found in the discussion assignment itself for the small group for them to see in there who the leader is. It's just really weird. It's just a weird Canvas discussion thing. It's okay. I don't mean to derail the meeting. I just thought I'd ask that question.
You could ask your leaders to log in first and identify themselves. Say, hey, leaders, start your conversation, introduce yourself, and get the group going. Just as kind of a generic message for your assignments?
It's more of a problem that they don't know how to find out if they're the leader or not.
out.
Maybe another way would be like have a simple statement you can copy and paste, linking them to people at the top of all the assignments and just saying, go here to see who's the leader for this.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, I wonder if I can assign based on the new Canvas stuff. Maybe I can assign things to different people and not to everybody. Anyway, I'm so sorry. Don't mean to derail this. It was just my it was a way I have my student to student interaction, and I really love this assignment, but it's one of those things. I think I have some thoughts based on the new Canvas stuff that you were showing us in the first meeting this morning.
Yes. Great. Thank you for asking. All right. To finish up here, some of these slides, if you're with us this morning, you've already seen. But distance learning has worked to make these two chatbots. We have an RSI accreditation chatbot. If you want to ask questions about RSI or requirements, it has been fed information from ACCJC's website and our own RSI information from the Delight Committee. And so it is kind of very focused on for Sierra College. There's no login required, and you do not. You could be anonymous while you try these out. Ask some questions. We've done a lot of tryouts with these the last few months, so they should be working pretty well. If you run into any problems, please let us know at Distance Learning, and we'll do our best to fix them as quick as possible. And then we also have the ProfBot chatbot, which is kind of an all knowledge base, effective practices, accessibility, RSI, a little bit of everything that is almost like a companion to the faculty resource guide. So there are a lot of information. Nothing that you put into these chatbots will be used to train outside AI models. These were created with PlayLab, which is a nonprofit educational group, I think, created out of UC Berkeley. So we try to be really intentional on what kind of information that's being sent out, which is all supposed to stay within our chatbot and PlayLab. So give them a try. They're really fun for brainstorming new ideas. If you have an assignment that isn't as interactive as you hope, you can ask it to improve it. You can ask it for ways that you can improve it. If you have a certain, if you have quiet students that are hard to get in, maybe you could ask them some questions as well. So there's no login for these. You don't have to be logged into Canvas. And I'll copy and paste these into the chat in just a moment. Also, a faculty resource guide. Our trainings are all in ProDev now. Our YouTube channel that we linked in there earlier is constantly updated with new videos. And of course, the distance learning email. So distancelearning@sierracollege.edu. That goes to the whole team. So if one of us is in a meeting or in a workshop, it'll go to everyone so we could hopefully give you an answer quickly. All right, and thank you for joining us. That is all that I had planned for now. If anyone has questions, or if Allison, you want to add anything to the end here, you are more than welcome. But thank you all for spending 2 hours with us.
Oh, can you go back to the faculty resource guide QR code?
Absolutely.
I didn't get it in time.
Absolutely. And if for some reason it's giving you an error code that you can't access it, please let us know and we'll make sure we add you to it. Sometimes that happens with new faculty. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, when do they start selecting courses to review?
It'll be after the course is complete, so sometime during the spring semester.
Oh, during the spring. Okay.
Yeah.
And will they tell you if your course has been selected?
That I don't know.
We don't
Sorry.
They said no, that they would not yesterday. It's not meant to be punitive and about any single person. It's really a reflection of the whole college. So it'll remain anonymous. And that was 2 days ago. I keep saying yesterday, sorry.
Well, but we were talking about how like they could ask for follow-up information, like when some of the people were talking about using different resources, they were saying, well, maybe you could provide that information. So how would they ask that question if you're anonymous?
That would be, so it's not that it's anonymous. It's just that they're not sharing who it is. So in that case, they would go to that professor and say like, hey, can we get access to, you know, your whatever you're using?
Okay. So you mean they're not going to widely share, and they'll only share
Yeah.
if they need follow-up, not.
Yeah, they don't really
Okay.
care like who it is. They're just like randomly getting 50 classes and
Okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Shelley. That's helpful.
Allison,
Hey, Kwame.
hey, I'm not sure if I asked you this question before and whether you're able to help me. I had this situation where a student in my Canvas shell was able to send an email to the entire, to send an announcement or like send a message to the entire class, like,
Yeah.
and I got copied on it and all that. I don't know whether they're able to do, they're supposed to do that. It was, yeah, it kind of freaked me out that it still was able to do that, but.
Yeah, I believe that that is just how it works. When I was looking it up, students do have the capability of messaging the whole class. It's a little odd, but
It's really weird.
yeah.
Thankfully, the message wasn't anything, but I don't know whether it's a feature that they should have to
Is
be able
it
to message
something
the
you
whole
can
class.
turn off?
I would love to know that if I can do that.
Under settings within the course, is there something that you're, you know, you can select or deselect? I wonder.
Not that I'm aware of. It's been, I know that you brought this up in the spring.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I looked at it, but I wasn't able to find a way to turn that off. Yeah. I think it is unfortunately just a feature of the Canvas inbox.
Okay.
Sarah,
Robert,
have
did
you
you have a question?
interacted? Or sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. If you're not done, go ahead.
No, I was just curious if you had encountered that, like mass messaging in your class.
Me, I have not. I know it is an option and there's no way for instructors to turn that off on their side. It has to do with Canvas's set permissions for students. I'll make a note on it, but I'm not really sure there's anything that we can do. The only thing that you can really turn off within your course is allowing or preventing students from creating a discussion board. And that you can turn off in your course settings. But in terms of emailing everybody in the class, there's nothing that we can really do on our individual sides.
That is so weird in terms of design, because if the instructor is the one in charge of the class and a student is messaging the entire class, well, the good thing is that I was copied on this, so that was good. But what if you're not copied on it? A student can just hijack your class.
They could very well be talking about us
Yeah.
without us on the thread. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it happens. I do.
If they know they have this feature, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Robert, I see your hands up.
Yeah, so this isn't really about really about technical issues, but kind of a policy question. I was going to ask this earlier, but I didn't want to take up time with this question. It has to do with let's imagine if you're teaching a class, you have the discussion boards that are a certain percentage of your class. Mathematically, a student could pass the class without doing the discussions, but it would lower their grade. You have a student that does every single assignment, but never does the discussions. Do you drop that student after a warning?
Personally, I'm just speaking from my perspective. I think it's up to the instructor if that's your policy.
I'm just wondering
right?
what your policy was on that, because I know that there's no right or wrong answer.
For me, I think my policy is that if they don't complete like the assigned assignments in the first week, then I drop them, and that includes a discussion board.
Okay, but I'm talking about we're well into the semester
Yeah.
and they're regularly not doing the discussions. I'll tell you, I used to give them a couple of warnings and then drop them. I don't do that anymore. I figure, they know what they're doing, and they are participating. They're in the class each week. They're just not doing the discussion that's going to affect their grade. And I figured this is a decision they made. So I quit doing that.
Yeah. I also do this really annoying thing where I force my students to do each item in the module in sequence.
Okay.
And so they can't get to the next thing until they've done the discussion. So yeah, it's up to you. But that's what I do. Anybody else want to weigh in? I'm curious.
They hate that though, Allison. They
I know,
hate
but
that.
hey.
That they have to go through step by step. They hate it. Like, but yeah, but that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're
Thank
just
you.
about at time. So thank you. I hope your afternoon goes smoothly, and I wish you a great fall 25.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.